Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Hey, are you going to do it or am I? Okay, I'll do it.
You do it.
Hey, folks, this is John Turan. Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest. I'm a guest host here today. We're going to skip our normal format and just jump straight into candidate intros. I know a lot of you guys show up for the rumors and speculation section, but you're going to have to tune back in next week to check that out. Our first guest is Vadim Mazursky. He is a Multnomah County Commission candidate in District 1. His website is votevadim.com. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Yeah. So tell us, what are three things you want voters to know about you?
Okay, so I'm an immigrant. My family and I were refugees from the Ukraine. So we came here with just a few suitcases, $90 each. That's all it would let us take out of the country when we left. And like many immigrants, worked really hard. My family jumped from job to job, city to city. Came here in Portland, fell in love with the city. Moved here, settled down. Met my wife here. My daughter was born recently, and I want to make the city and county the best that it can. We've gone through some difficult times, and that's why I'm running for office, because I know we can make a difference. We have the wonderful people here. We have wonderful scenery, great city, but we need to improve how our county functions in order to get things done.
Excellent. So what are your priorities going to be over at the county, and tell us why?
Okay, so the first is probably in a lot of your viewers' minds. It's addressing homelessness and the root causes of homelessness. What we have is a combination of people who may have lost their jobs, and the county's actually doing a pretty good job in getting those people funding to get back on their feet, to get back into housing and apartments. We also have people with very serious drug addiction problems, and we're doing a terrible job reaching out to them. We have people with very serious mental health problems as well, and once again, we're just not doing the outreach and we're not coordinating well. And we want to make sure that the impact of that is it helps improve the community as well. So get those individuals off the streets into shelters where we can get them the care that they need so that they're not suffering in the streets. And what we'll see is an improvement in quality of life for a lot of people. We'll see a lot of people that'll have a better outcomes because we're helping them in the shelters rather than expecting them to help themselves on the streets. So that's my number one thing. My second desire is, of course, affordable housing, work on that. And I think in the savings we can have in addressing the homeless problem, we're spending a lot of money on homelessness.
We really are.
The budget for next year for the Joint Office of Homeless Services is $412 million. And I know you had Sam Adams on the show a little while ago. He's saying about $650 million. Next year is going to be closer to $700 million we're spending to get people off the streets into housing, these various organizations. If we just do a better job, we can use some of that money for other things like helping with low-cost housing, people that are struggling in our community. And then turning around our economy. There's no question that in the last few years we've seen people leave, we've seen small businesses leave. People are just burnt out a little bit and they're looking for something else, some other places. What we need to do is create that environment that brought us here and kept us here so that we have business coming back here, people moving back here. We have tourism coming back here. It's a beautiful area and we need to bring people back.
Yeah. We recently had the women's, what was it, the Elite Eight come into town. Mm-hmm. And I live downtown, and so you could definitely see like the boost that it brought. And I think they said it brought like $3 or $4 million to our local economy, and so that's definitely the direction I'd like to see the region go.
Yeah, there's a lot of people helping out right now. There's Music Portland is going to have 80 concerts in Central Portland on Peabody area, so those small music venues are coming out and people will play, and that'll bring people back towards Central Portland. They'll shop, they'll hopefully have a drink at a bar, maybe go to a show at night, and that's how our economy grows. That's how the small businesses, the restaurants will grow, and so we need to ensure that happens. But we need to make sure it's also safe. People are very concerned about their safety if they come to downtown, Central, East Side, some of these other areas. When I ran for city council, people in Lentz were very concerned about their safety. This is not just something that's affecting the West or the East; it's affecting us all. And the county, with the district attorney's budget, the sheriff's budget, the jail budget, and they work with the judges to actually set policies with respect to public safety. So the county can do a lot more. Right now, the county's ignoring that, and I will work to make sure that it's safe out there for people.
Well, it really sounds like you're focused on livability issues, and I know our viewers are going to really appreciate that. So talk a little bit about your campaign. How are you getting the word out, and how can voters get involved with it?
All right. Well, I know, John, you ran into me at the farmer's market. So I'm out there every day, whether it's by phone or knocking on doors. I've already had another interview today, and there's an interview after this. So it's doing a lot. I'm very proud of the endorsements I've received in this race, and a lot of that speaks to my ability to work with people. The difficulty we're having right now is that the county and the city don't work together. So, maybe you remember they closed down the shelters during an ice storm. And so what we had was people suffering in the streets because the shelters were closed early. Well, guess what? The city said it was the county's fault. The mayor's office said that the county was mismanaging its shelter sites. The county said it was the city's fault, that the city did not provide enough volunteers for these shelter places. What we're seeing right now is a lot of finger pointing. No one wants to take responsibility. And so I'm endorsed by 3 of the leading mayoral candidates. I'm endorsed by Mingus Mapps, Renee Gonzalez, Keith Wilson. Carmen Rubio has stayed neutral in this race, which is also good. And that speaks to my ability to work with these individuals. I have a past with them. We've worked on other projects before, and I'll work with them on the county to make sure that we have a livable city, that it's flourishing, that everyone is benefiting from the policies that we have, and our money is being spent well.
Excellent. We have a couple more minutes here, and I always ask this fun question: do you have a favorite restaurant or park?
Oh, you know what? It changes from time to time. So, living on the west side, I love the Arboretum. There's a lot of trails there. For those of you that go visit Washington Park or maybe the Japanese Gardens and you stop there, keep on going. There's a lot of trails back there. There's a magnolia trail. The magnolia trees are blooming right now. So a beautiful area. And also stay a little close to home. There's a restaurant on Burnside called The Soup. S-O-O-P, not S-O-U-P, and it has, I think, the best Korean food in Portland. It's also very healthy. They grow their own vegetables over there to put in the food, so I'd highly recommend going there. They opened right as the pandemic hit, the worst possible time to open a restaurant, so they had a really hard time, but now they're expanding. They have a little bar area, so if you go watch a soccer game over there, grab a drink before the game, help out a local business, help a family-run business grow here in Portland.
I love the idea of local grown vegetables. I'm very big into like regenerative farming and things like that.
Yeah, you look pretty healthy.
I try. And one of the things, it's like we're at a very beginning stage in like kind of reevaluating or revisioning downtown. One interesting idea that I heard about that is turning buildings into vertical gardens. And so that's something that's interesting for viewers to learn about and look into, but you would actually turn them into essentially greenhouses.
I mean, we kind of see that in the federal building downtown where they have the ivy growing up. I mean, we have to think big. We've been thinking a lot about how to solve the fundamental problems, and that's why I'm running for office, to solve these issues that will help the city grow. But once we do that, what kind of city do we want to become? What do we want to be known for? We have more music venues here in Portland than Austin, Texas, and yet Austin is known as the music capital of the world, right? Why is Portland not known as the music capital of the United States? So we need to let people know what we're about here, let people know what our vision is, and that vision might very well be a garden right in downtown. I mean, why not?
I love it. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Please come visit my website, votevadim.com, learn more about me, and hope I get your vote. Thank you.
All right. And in keeping with the county theme, you can exit. And what we got next up, a county guest here, Vincent Dixon. Sorry about that. Vincent Jones Dixon. I always get the last names confused. But yes, folks, here we are with Vince Jones Dixon, Multnomah County Commission District 4 candidate. You can find his website at vincejonesdixon.com. Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the welcome.
Yeah. So tell the voters 3 things you want them to know about you.
Yeah. So good afternoon or good morning. My name is Vince Jones Dixon. I'm a Gresham City Councilor in East County, and then also running for County Commission, District 4. I grew up here in Portland, graduate of De La Salle North Catholic High School, grew up in the Woodlawn neighborhood. And the main reason why I ran, what drew me to public service was actually a conversation I had with my brother about 10 years ago. We were driving through West Gresham, and my brother began to describe the community. And he said, V, these kids need to see something different. And he said he wanted to start an after-school program focused on math and science. And about 3 months after that conversation, he got shot and killed in that same community. And when it happened, professionally, I'm a funeral director by trade. I've been serving families for about 16 years. After when he passed, my mind immediately went back to the conversation that we had 3 months prior. I'm like, I want to start that and engage in that work, and his passing propelled me into public service. So I spent about 5 or 6 years in Gresham specifically, working on projects with the city of Gresham around community safety and economic development. And what I noticed over the course of that 5 to 6 years that we were just scratching the surface as far as like solving big problems, and we didn't have real representation on the council. We had great leaders, but not representation. So I decided to run in 2020, and I've been focused on doing the work ever since.
So you chose the pandemic year to run. That had
yes,
to be a
that's
little
year.
bit, a little bit different.
yeah. And the main thing was just I ran and I got appointed actually in 2020. There was a huge shift in our local government, and I got appointed unanimously by the whole council and the mayor at the time, and then I ran that same year and got majority of the votes, and I ran on a platform of community safety. So in the time where everybody was defunding their police, we went through the process of defining what we were asking our officers to do, and then collaborating with them and community as far as funding those things and moving forward. So, and that was under my leadership.
And then how was, and if you weren't ready for this, we can move on. But
ready.
how are your recruiting efforts for Gresham Police? Do you have a shortfall? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. We do. I think in general, every police department is struggling with that, and we are as well. I think the thing that we've been focused on is like the incentives and just the community in general. The Gresham Police Department, were leaders in adopting technology. So we have drones, and we were like the first city here in Oregon to install the body-worn cameras. We have overt cameras as well, and that's and because of that, we're able to. Our solve rate is extremely high. So it's just that's one piece, and then the other piece is we started back in 2020. Actually, they started this before, but we launched a youth services program. And they intentionally partner and work with the police as far as addressing the livability issues that we're facing here in community. So we have the same challenges, but we're committed to creating an environment where officers feel welcomed and supported, and then also have the capacity to work through big things in our community.
Well, that's definitely a transferable skill set, since the county does have their own police department.
Yes.
So will you share what your priorities are going to be when you get elected?
Yeah. So I have my three top priorities is community safety, mental health and addiction services, and then the last one is the main one is homeless services as well. I've had the opportunity to serve on the board of a nonprofit called Cultivate Initiatives, and serving on the board and working with them, I learned that there's creative ways that we can be addressing and meeting the needs of our community members that need help.
Okay, excellent. And then, besides money, how can voters get involved in your campaign, and how are you getting the word out for your campaign?
Yeah, similar to Vadim and the other candidates that you've had on, just going out to events, so they can get in touch with me via social media. Also, we're hosting canvassing events as well, and then just invites too. So if there's anything that you would like to have me come out to or speak, I'm more than willing to do that. And then also you can visit me on my website.
Can they get in contact with you on your website?
They can.
Okay,
yes.
Excellent. And then I like to ask this question also, and if you weren't really ready for it, it's fair, but do you have a favorite restaurant or park?
I do. So in East County, my favorite park is Bella Vista Park, and then my favorite restaurant in East Multnomah County would have to be Try Me Ethiopian. It's Ethiopian food.
Wow.
And then here in Portland would be, as of late, Grinds with Tries. It's Hawaiian food, so that's shows off my Polynesian side.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers?
Main thing, don't get distracted by the noise. You have a ton of great candidates. Get engaged. You'll see a lot of them thanks to you. and then just continue to be present. And thank you again for hosting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
you're
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
And so, up next we have Nick Hara.
Yep, you got it right.
All right.
Did my little thing help out?
Yes, it did. I thought about the pirate, the raw. That was really good. Hey, folks. We have Nick Hart, Multnomah County Commission candidate, District Number 2. His website is nickhara.com.
Yep.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you
coming.
for having me. Yeah.
So, tell our viewers three things about you that you'd like the voters to know.
Yeah, so just to sort of start off with who I am, my name's Nick Hara. I believe in a just and thriving Multnomah County. I'm a Japanese American, fourth generation here in Portland.
Oh, wow.
Living in Coley. I've got a young daughter. It was great hearing that Vadim also's got a new daughter. Maybe we get a play date going. But yeah, for me, it's been kind of funny because I've, for the last 25 years, lived in a different place every 5 years. But my extended family's always been here. Mm-hmm. So for me, I get to come back here now, get to raise a family, get to actually be here. And that was something that my wife and I chose when the pandemic came about. For me, the reason that I'm running is that I see there's a big need in Multnomah County's governance right now for more accountability, more transparency. I know that we've heard that a lot. But I think I've got some very specific qualifications that can help out with that. Prior to running for office, I was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's data director for her campaign. I did that for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And before that, I was working for a tech company helping out accounts like the United Nations with actually measuring the impact of their work, actually knowing that the data they are collecting was having the result that we expected on the ground. And if it wasn't, we were working on adjustments, how that could change policy, how that could make things better. I'm actually trained as a political economist, and my specific area of study was local regional governance. So how local governments make decisions, how they can do that collaboratively, durably, and sustainably. Mm-hmm. So for me, this is really a moment for me to take all of those skills that I've worked on in my professional life, in my educational life, and synthesize those hopefully into something that's meaningful, that actually creates change, and starts to apply that.
Well, just even getting into the race itself and pushing that discussion creates change. It creates that dialogue and that narrative. And so, I know our viewers appreciate you, just even being in the race and pushing these things forward.
Well, I really appreciate that. I think it's really hard because we do hear about collaboration a lot. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? And what I've noticed is a lot of folks think it means that the thing they want is going to exactly get done the way they want it to get done. Collaboration is, at least in the conflict resolution world, is a much more complex and sticky sort of thing. It's where you're spending a lot of time really trying to dig into, like, what are the core needs? How are we accomplishing these goals? How are we understanding what the outcomes are really going to be? And that's actually why I ended up doing a lot of data stuff, because I found that in that conflict resolution setting, people were asking data-based questions, mm-hmm. that you could tie those two things back. So for me, it's been a really fun sort of thing to try to merge those two in my professional career, and to now try to bring that out here.
Okay, excellent. And then, so once you're elected, what are your legislative priorities going to be, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. I see three core crises that we're facing. The first one is a crisis of livability. The second one is the climate crisis that we are currently experiencing. And the third one is a crisis of government trust. Livability, I think, just to define it for the audience really quickly, please. Here is the ability to live an enriching life. But something that I keep in mind, that I'm always thinking about, is that 1 in 3 households in Multnomah County are unable to meet their basic needs. They cannot put food on the table, they can't pay their rent or their mortgage, or they can't keep the lights on.
Wow.
And if you keep that in perspective, you see that when we talk about things like homelessness, it's part of that greater livability conversation that we're having, right? And so the policies that we need to be implementing need to be thinking about that entire spectrum of livability in this county, right? If we are able to solve for homelessness, we're also able to start working on other livability issues. If we also approach every issue as part of this bigger livability crisis that we're facing, then we can start to build a multnomah that works for everyone. Just another quick statistic is that in the next 5 years, it's estimated we're still going to be 75,000 affordable housing units shy.
Wow.
75,000 affordable housing units shy of what we need in the region. And so when we talk about solutions to, again, homelessness, we also have to look at, okay, well, we have this housing crisis, again, part of that livability crisis, that is just not getting fully addressed. The second thing I see is the climate crisis. And I think we all think back to 21 with the heat dome, or we've already heard about the ice storms that we had this last winter. Both of those are results of climate change. The county already has a lawsuit against fossil fuel industries about that.
See that.
But we have to anticipate that these are not events that are rare and will happen sometimes. These are events that are going to become more frequent, more extreme. And there's a lot of ways that we as a region can tackle that, right? The first one is really focusing on new green industries, really trying to work on doing retrofits in the home, which the county has some wonderful programs right now that not a lot of people are aware of, to replace, say, your gas stove with a more efficient electric stove, to help us decarbonize. They've got incentives for solar panels, things like that. At the same time, it's about building resilience at the county level. Right now, we've been underinvesting in our budget for years on just basic infrastructure upgrades by about half of what we need. So it's really just about taking that time to really say, hey, we want to invest in our libraries. We want to make sure that our infrastructure is up to date, that it's safe for our staff and workers to be there. The third thing that I see that we've talked a little bit about is government trust. I see a crisis of government trust at a lot of levels. How our agencies, our governments are working with each other, right? City and county and metro. How the government is working within itself, right? How the board and the commission is working. There's clearly some conflict that seems to be hampering progress there. And then the third layer is that level of trust that we have with the people that we represent. And there's a lot of different ways to tackle that, but at the very, very core, it's about building trusting relationships and structures that reinforce that trust. It's about being able to give our staff, for example, our departments, the resources that they need to execute on their jobs. A really great example of where we're struggling right now is the Joint Office of Homeless Services. Yeah. Every single contractor that we have, they are unable to pay a living wage to their frontline staff.
Oh, wow.
So if we're talking about, again, tackling homelessness, and we want to reduce homelessness, I would expect that at first, we as the county would want to contract or make in our contracts clauses that require livable wages for their staff.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised when you said that, because there is always, I've always felt that when the government creates a job, it has a duty to create a living wage job. It's like the name of that program is slipping my head, but as a contractor, I was a construction contractor in the past, and they had pay rates set out to ensure that they're livable.
That's probably prevailing wages as a union worker, right? So for unions, we've got that, which is great.
Right.
But the county has basically no other controls if it's not in a negotiated contract with a union.
Gotcha.
So when we think again about a just and thriving Multnomah County, what that looks like, a more livable Multnomah County, we can start with our own budget. We can start with the way that we do things, and we can start with policies that actually trust our staff to get the job done, to rely on that expertise, and to help build those collaborative governance structures.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So share a little bit about your campaign. It's like tell people how you're communicating it and how people can help you, besides money, of course.
Yes, obviously, we'll leave that one to the side. But right now the campaign is in its late days. There's only a few weeks left before everybody starts to receive their ballot. As a data person, I'll just say right now that one of the biggest problems that the entire area is sort of facing, everybody in the May primary is facing, is that there's going to be a low turnout rate. even though everybody gets mailed a ballot, only about 50% of those ballots are going to get mailed back.
Is that what you're anticipating turnout?
Yes,
for
historically,
50% for this one?
Yeah, yeah. Historically speaking, only about 50% of ballots get returned in a primary like this one.
Okay.
So the most critical thing you can do is to take 5 minutes, fill out your ballot, mail it in. Beyond that, I'd love it if folks went to my website, signed up for my mailing list. You know, I share that out, or, you know, go to my Instagram. It's at PicnicHara. And really just to share my message. You know, a big thing for me is that I do think we need to be tackling these crises at a larger level, really be holistic about the way that we think about these problems. If you look at the three crises and the way that I'm proposing to solve them, they're actually interwoven, they're interconnected, and ultimately those things are going to sustain us into, again, that thriving space as opposed to this constant space of crisis response.
Yes, very reactionary. A lot of people feel that there is a huge, I feel like there's a disconnect between constituents and the elected officials currently, and it is conveying the feeling of being reactionary rather than planning out and deciding.
I spend a lot of time talking to voters, and one of the things I get is, what does Multnomah County do?
Yeah.
You know, all the time, just like, what does it do?
Right.
And the first thing I usually point to is library services. We have incredible library services, but unfortunately in District 2, there's 7 total libraries. 2 of them are closed, and those 2 libraries are the closest ones serving the Albina district right now. It's just an unfortunate reality of the way that we've, again, deferred maintenance and didn't really have a strong plan for doing outreach with the community to make sure that there were backup library services there. You know,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then my last question is usually, do you have a favorite restaurant or park?
Oh man, you know, I love all the parks that I go to in my neighborhood. I try to stay as walkable as possible. I believe really in walkable spaces. I go to K Park near Rigler Elementary a lot. It's a beautiful little tiny park. It's got all of these great little rock scramble features that my daughter's starting to like figure out, and it's a little scary. It's a little fun, you know. And then the other park I love is Wilshire Park, obviously.
That was my park growing up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal park.
Yeah.
And they just redid the playground structure there, but they left those seesaws. Have you seen those seesaws recently? Yeah. Those are the world's deadliest seesaws, and I love them.
And they've been there forever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're phenomenal for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always just watch, you know, kids running up and down them and going,
Yeah.
Okay.
It's had a lot of variations. You know, when I was very young, I used to go to the little kiddie pool there. And then in high school, that was like our drinking park.
Oh yeah.
And then they put up a sign saying you couldn't park on like I guess like Mason or whatever's on that side. They put up new signs saying you couldn't park there after dark. And then when every time I've moved back to Portland, I've stayed at my mom's house, and so that walking path around there was a really appreciated addition to that.
Isn't that nice though, to go back to those old spaces and to just like have those memories kind of come back?
Yeah, it's like my mom still lives in the house that we grew up in, we grew up in, and so it's awesome being able to have that bit of history.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, that's great.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers?
You know, no, I think that I've shared as much as I can, other than, you know, to go to my website. Would love to have anybody come out to any of the events that we're holding, and really just share my vision for a just and thriving Multnomah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, and we have our next guest up here, folks. We are going to move to Daniel DeMello. He is a city council candidate in District 3. Welcome aboard. Thank you. His website is DeMello4 Portland.com. You can see it there on this graphic. District 3, as we've been trying to educate voters, is primarily in the southeast portion of the city of Portland, with the exception of Selwood.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so tell the voters 3 things that you'd like for them to know about you?
Yeah, I want to just kind of qualify and say that I know there's a lot of people who run for office, a lot of people who get involved who say this, that they had no intentions of running for office. And I really want to be clear that that is true for me as well. The experience I had chairing the Joint Office of Homeless Services Budget Advisory Committee and learning that we are spending this year more than $400 million on homeless services without a commitment to reducing unsheltered homelessness, for me, that was sort of the big thing that convinced me to get in the race at sort of the head or the rational level. But what really convinced me to step into the race was this experience I had moving out of Old Town more than a year ago. I was waiting in line at a food truck trying to get my partner a burrito because they were working on packing up some boxes. And this woman came up to me, and her name was Desiree, and she asked me to buy her dinner. And what Desiree told me just broke my heart. You read all these spreadsheets, read these statistics, they describe things at the higher level, but when you get in and you hear people's stories, you know that we need real change. Desiree told me that she moved here in 2019 from Spokane and wasn't aware of the cost of housing here in Portland. She quickly became homeless. And what Desiree told me was that when she moved here, she was maybe 350 pounds, but she's standing there in front of me as thin as a twig, and she lifts up her shirt to show her ribs protruding. And what Desiree tells me is that she had gotten herself addicted to methamphetamine on purpose so that she could stay awake during the night and protect herself from assault or anything of that sort. You hear those stories, you hear these at the high level, but then you speak with someone who's had that experience and you realize that we need real change. But the commitments that we have in place right now to address the homelessness crisis, they still don't have any commitments there to reducing the number of people who are sleeping on the streets. That, more than anything else, is what I want to focus on here in Portland, not just because I think it's unconscionable that we're allowing so many people to sleep on the streets every evening, but also once we start reducing homelessness, it is so much easier to get people connected to mental health services. It's so much easier to get people connected to other services, and a lot of the problems that we're facing in the other bureaus and city services will be reduced. Half the fires the fire bureau is responding to are homelessness-related fires. More than half of the people who died last year on the streets from traffic violence themselves were homeless. If we start tackling the homeless crisis, we can start making a real impact on these other problems we're facing.
Okay, I'm gonna hold you back to the first question. You jumped right into priorities, but tell the voters a little bit about you.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess I think that's a good refocusing here. I think that really, more than anything else, indicates that I want to focus on the problems for myself here.
You're very passionate about it, and you're ready to jump in it. But we want to get some context on who Daniel is.
I am a queer man living in Kearns. I am a second-generation American. My grandfather moved here from the Azores back in '57, 10 siblings. I got 53 cousins on that side of my family, and I think half of them are named Mary or Paul. I am a cyclist. I am someone who has spent a lot of time working on the engineering side and the software engineering side. I'm really someone who has, I think, both that expertise, both in the data-driven and the interpersonal relations that I think are really important to understanding public policy. I am a huge fan of the music scene here in Portland. I've played at some venues like the Star Theater and the Crystal Ballroom.
What do you play?
I play guitar primarily.
Okay.
A little bit of singing, but not as much as I would like, maybe.
Are you in a band?
Not in a band at present. That would be a lot to take on at once.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you grow up here in Portland? Or?
Yes, I grew up in far southwest.
Okay. Very nice. Like Garden Home?
There's literally a neighborhood called Far Southwest.
That's where PCC is.
Just on the other side.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, and then I guess let's talk a little bit about your campaign. How are you campaigning? How is it going?
I think that we're in a really great spot. I'm endorsed by 314 Action, who endorses people with science and engineering backgrounds and supports them as they run for office. I spend more than 20 hours a week on the phone. It's very likely that someone watching this has already been bothered by me. I'm sorry, that is what the job requires, apparently. I go to a lot of events. I really do appreciate spending the time and chatting with anyone individually. In particular, if you go to my website, there's a link to set up a phone conversation with me, and I would love to chat with anyone, especially people who disagree with me, because I think it's really important that we listen to all perspectives.
That's been one of the cool things about guest hosting this show is we've had so many different perspectives come in here, but like I think most candidates are kind of focusing on these core livability issues, but they've got different ways of going about it, and it's if you come at it with the open ears, you can learn quite a bit about like what their motivation is and where they're coming from and everything like that. And so that I've been really lucky that Bruce has chosen me to help him out with the Meet the Candidate portion of the show. So besides money, how can voters help you? What can voters do besides engage you, of course? But
I think more than anything else, getting the word out. We are up against a lot of, I think, special interests in this race. There's a lot of money flowing around this race. So being involved, getting the word out is really helpful more than anything else. Also, besides the amount of any donation, donating at all is super significant because the city has a program where donations get matched 9-1.
So you're participating in the small donor program?
Yes, okay. Which I'm very excited about. It makes it a lot easier to focus on the interests of people going about their everyday lives rather than spending my time in fancy office buildings downtown trying to get money from someone who has a last name that has a street named after him here, right?
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then I do always like to ask, just to get to know the districts or their areas a little bit better, do you have a favorite restaurant, park, or both?
I would say that my favorite restaurant, the restaurant I'm going to the most right now, is Frank's a Lot. It's
the hot dogs.
The hot dogs, yeah.
Our former city councilor, Nick Fish, that was one of his favorite places. But
it's a great spot. I really appreciate it. My only complaint was that they should have the cream cheese for the Seattle dog. They had it for a second. I've tried to talk them into it. They haven't taken it up. But favorite park, Mills End Park.
Okay.
Smallest park in the world. It's very nice. I really like that here in Portland we have the smallest park in the world and the largest.
And the largest, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the viewers?
I would just say that I'm really laser focused on the issues that Portlanders overwhelmingly have identified as the most important issues. I would love to get to a place where the most important issues here in Portland are arguing about how we should fix the seesaws in the parks.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
And we're going to move over to our next guest here. Our next guest is Andra Vlatovin. Voltavine. I practiced this. There was a couple of difficult names. She was a third difficult name.
Okay.
Vlatovine. She's a candidate for Portland City Council, District Number 4. Her website is andraforpdx.com. District 4 is the West Side and Selwood.
Selwood, Reed, Eastmoreland, there's a lot of communities over there.
Yeah, well, so welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. What are 3 things you'd like the voters to know about you?
Yeah, so I'm a queer, non-binary candidate, and my pronouns are they, them. And I decided to run for city council because I've been really involved in climate activism, been working with 350 PDX and Extinction Rebellion PDX, especially on the tank farms and the critical energy infrastructure hub in the Linton neighborhood, which is also part of District 4. And as part of that activism, I heard them call for change for the city council for time and time again, and it just wasn't happening. And so finally I just thought, okay, what if we get environmental activists on city council? And so that's kind of some of my background. I also co-founded a Portland nonprofit, and I currently I'm a co-director for a co-op that I run that's completely eco-friendly, everything done sustainably. So really trying to walk my talk here as a climate activist. And
so there was recently I saw that there were the residents I saw the headline. It was the residents called the tank farm a ticking time bomb.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very, very serious issue. Definitely kind of getting into my priorities here. But so there, 90% of Oregon's oil is being stored on very close to the Willamette River. And in the event of an earthquake or even a flood, it's on the floodplains as well. That soil can liquefy. That spills directly into the Willamette River. It would be the biggest U.S. oil spill we've ever had.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's not what I want Portland to be known for at all.
Definitely.
So I would really like for that to be at minimum seismically retrofitted. At best, we just phase out fossil fuels over time. And I think the middle solution is to disperse that throughout the state so it's not literally on our worst soils.
Right.
But yeah, I did attend that press conference on Tuesday, and there were several city council people who showed up.
And if I am remembering it correctly, it's one of the reasons that drove that meeting was that Zenith is very close to getting like a state approval to like continue operations, which I don't know if it was supposed to happen or if there was some backroom dealing going on.
Yeah, so the Portland auditor actually just confirmed that the backdoor deals did occur and some illegal lobbying happened with Zenith Energy, and so that has been a very primary target for the environmental activists in the community. And yeah, I'd really like to see city councilors who are not going to give in to business interests. And yeah, so it's an important issue.
Yeah, so we did kind of skip over to like the general priorities. So I want to give her a chance to, or they a chance to properly address their priorities. So what are your priorities and why?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the Critical Energy Infrastructure Hub, but there's also 70 toxic inhalant facilities along the Willamette River that, again, in the event of an earthquake, if those break open, it can cause a lot of fatalities. And our first responders are not trained to handle more than one toxic chemical at a time. And so really working to build community resilience with their first responders and make sure that all of these companies that have major risks to our waterways do risk bonding so that the taxpayers aren't responsible for these disasters when they happen. We're very due for our Cascadia earthquake, so it could happen anytime. But also really interested in streamlining the city processes, especially the permitting and the zoning. I'd like to see multi-use zoning so we can have those more walkable cities, so we can have our storefronts and, you know, the livable communities above them. I'd like to see some really creative repurposing of the office buildings like we've been talking about. And I'd like to see little micro communities form where you have like the apartments on the outside and then you have a storefront or a restaurant on the inside of the office building where there aren't egress windows. And so just getting some creative solutions about how we deal with those vacant office buildings. And then additionally, I'd really like to work on public education, because I think as we're dealing with these crises of houselessness, part of the problem is that the housed community is not being educated onto what the most effective solutions are. And you have to get buy-in from the housed community or you're going to get protests that are not in my backyard, right?
Yeah.
So we have to come together as a community and say, these houseless members, they are our community members, they're our neighbors, we owe them dignity. And so every neighborhood should select a site where, okay, here's where we have our homeless services, so that it's not, the burden isn't on one neighborhood, because often that one neighborhood is a low-income neighborhood already and they can't support all of the people involved. So I'd really just like to look at all of this holistically, and especially from a climate perspective, because it's really where my background is. And so thinking about, okay, we need more housing, but are we thinking about how to have sustainable materials as we're building more housing? Are we thinking about repurposing the properties we already have rather than brand new supplies and brand new resources and funding these contractors that are already making so much money?
Right. So tell us a little bit about your campaign. How are you getting the word out that you're running, and how can voters help you besides money?
Right. Yeah, so I feel like I'm running a very unique campaign in that I'm running for less than $1,000, and so I'm not asking for donations. And in light of that, word of mouth is really important to me. So if you want to get the word out, that'd be great.
So you're not doing the small donor program?
I am registered for it, but
Okay.
I don't plan to certify. Unfortunately, because of the way that the filing dates happen, in order to get found by anyone, you have to be in the small donor election program, but you don't have to get certified. So I'm in there so that people know I'm running. The official file date isn't until June 5th,
Right.
but I have no intentions of getting certified. So yeah, and so in that website is really helpful. Word of mouth is really helpful. And I've just been going to events. So I really have been asking people to just show up in their community. We have a lot of really amazing grassroots organizations here, the Portland Mutual Aid Network, and we have Growing Gardens, which is a really lovely gardening program that helps inmates and low-income families develop gardening practices. So that's also kind of how I got my hands in the dirt for the first time. So yeah,
Excellent.
really lovely.
And so they can get a hold of you through your website.
Yep,
And
andrewforpdx.com.
excellent. And then I like to ask this question to people also is, do you have a favorite restaurant or park?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for the park. I mean, I love all of our food carts. I think I really like just trying out all of the food carts. I don't know if I could pick a favorite. But I really love Marshall Park. It's very close to where I live, and there's just a lovely little creek where you can kind of climb around, and there's lots of walking trails. I think it connects to Tryon Creek and some of those really beautiful areas. And then there's also Willamette Park, which is just really beautiful. And I think especially given that the Willamette River has been designated as a Superfund site by the EPA, just seeing how beautiful that park is, like we have come a long way, and we have a long way to go to make it a safe waterway, but we've come a long way. And so just like treating our rivers as sacred and being connected to place.
Yeah, that's been awesome to see over my lifetime. I was born in the mid '70s, and the Willamette was like an industrial body of water, and it's changed tremendously, and I'm appreciative. I've actually swam in the Willamette a few times over the last few years.
Me too.
A little bit different. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the voters?
Yeah. So I'm really excited about this year in government because of the ranked choice voting changes, and also just the collaboration among candidates. I mean, just today it was at We Believe in Portland trash pickup with like 9 other candidates, and we just had a great time. We were picking up garbage, we were talking and getting to know each other, and had lunch together. And so just the collaboration that's happening. If you would have told me before I started running that I would have friends among people in my district who are running for office and across district, and that we would be collaborating as well as we are, I would tell you you're crazy, but it's happening. And so I really feel like there's so much excitement this year, and that the voters should be really excited to come out and turn out for the vote because it's really different.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so
we
much.
appreciate it. Yeah. And up next, we have current City Council Commissioner who is running for Portland City Mayor. We have Mingus Maps.
Hi, how are you
Welcome
doing
to
today?
Oregon Voters Digest.
Oh, thank you
very
so much for having me here. You guys got a great studio.
Yeah, it's Open Signal is a real gem for the community. I don't know if you remember, but it used to be over on Sandy, and this is one of the things that led sort of the renaissance over on MLK.
Well, absolutely, and I'll tell you, I interact with Open Signal every week because they broadcast our city council meetings.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that connection.
Oh, yeah.
but-
Oh, my gosh. They're just super pros.
Excellent. Well, welcome aboard, and tell the voters 3 things that you'd like for them to know about you.
Well, first, I hope you know that my name is Mingus Maps, and I'm running for mayor of Portland. And I'm running for mayor of Portland because I'm deeply committed to making our city safer. I'm deeply committed to ending street camping in our city. And I'm deeply committed to making our community more prosperous. The other thing I want you to know about me is that I have the experience and vision to get those goals done. In terms of experience, I literally have a PhD in government. I've served on city council for 3.5 years now. On council, I'm your commissioner in charge of infrastructure, so the Water Bureau, PBOT, and basically sewers and wastewater. All that's mine. That portfolio represents about 1/3 of the city's employees, half the city's budget, and 95% of the city's assets. So I know how to do this work, and I do it every day. And I think a third thing I really hope Portlanders know about me is that I love the city. I'm a dad. I'm a Democrat. I'm compassionate, and I have common sense. You know, I'm in this race because I want to hand down a city to my 15-year-old and my 13-year-old. I want to give them a city which allows them to prosper. I want to give them a city that embraces them and allows them to thrive the way that Portland embraced me and allowed me to thrive to the point where I can be a public servant and a candidate for mayor.
Excellent. And you do have a actual background working for the city, if that's correct, right?
Absolutely. Like currently I serve on city council. Before that, I was the person who was in charge of running the city's neighborhood association. Of course, Portland's famous for our 95 different neighborhoods and our unique and seminal neighborhood association system. I was also a supervisor over in the city's crime prevention program. So I have hands-on experience with, I think, some of the most important programs in our city, from crime prevention to supporting neighborhoods, roads, sewer, water. All of these things are programs that I have helped run on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis.
Does that give you a leg up in fashioning legislation that can actually be implemented?
Oh my gosh, yes. Good intentions when you come into the political space are very important, but it literally is a skill. It is not easy to run a city of 700,000 people. Our budget is about $7 billion. It is a challenging work to do. One of the reasons why I do public work as opposed to spending my life in the private sector is I think some of the most interesting and most difficult challenges that we face as a people fall into that local government space. How do we support each other? How do we keep each other safe? How do we prosper as a community?
Well, that's a great segue into what would be your priorities and why.
Oh, sure. Well, I got three things that I'm really focused on, like a laser beam. One is public safety, another is ending street camping, and the third is supporting economic prosperity and recovery. On public safety, I'll tell you, one of the most heartbreaking things that I've seen in the last couple of years is the incredible spike in violent crimes in our city. I'll tell you what, even last year we got pretty close to 100 homicides. If you go back to 2016, we had 16. When I came into council, the first thing I did is I put out a challenge to our city to say, let's reduce homicides by, I believe, 20% by the end of this year. It took us a little bit longer, but I'll tell you right now, if trends continue, we've got our homicide rate down by 25% compared to where we were last year. And we've done that through really common sense and hard work. We've invested in crime prevention programs and violence prevention programs. Frankly, we have also stabilized the police department. Even as we stabilized the police department, we've also demanded more accountability from our police officers. We really have a different police bureau today than we did 3 years ago when I came into council. That's amazing. The other thing which I'm very focused on is ending street camping. Every night in Portland, we probably have about 6,000 people sleeping on our sidewalks, sleeping in our parks, sleeping in cars. This is a human tragedy that has all sorts of implications that we all know about. Frankly, I think that it is time to end. I think there's some confusion in the Portland metro area. Ending homelessness is both a project of the city and the project of the county. My analysis of the problem is, frankly, that relationship between the city and the county hasn't worked well enough. Frankly, I think if you read the papers, the county is struggling. The county is primarily charged with providing housing and shelter for folks who are houseless. The city, one of the things that the city does is that we are supposed to kind of connect people to the county, and the county needs to provide them with the human services that they need to heal. I think the city has to own some responsibility for how we have failed here. One of the things that we haven't done with the county is demand clear outcomes and clear accountability. When I'm your next mayor, that is my job one as we work with the county. And then the last thing that I'm really focused on is bringing back economic prosperity to our city. I'll tell you, if you look at those tall towers downtown, they're about a third empty. I'm the guy in charge of PBOT. I will tell you, one of the ways we fund our road maintenance is through people plugging our parking meters, and our revenues there are down because people are not coming downtown and shopping anymore and not going into work anymore. And I will also tell you this. In the last couple of years, we've actually seen the population of Portland shrink. That is almost unheard of. I think if you take a look at our city's 173-year-long history, that's happened maybe 2 or 3 times. Wow. It's a sign that, frankly, people are starting to give up on this city. People are being driven out because our costs are too high, and frankly, the psychic costs of living in Portland are too high. I believe that we can turn that around by, number one, the city following through and delivering on the basics. It's awfully hard to run a restaurant if you have a tent parked in front of your front door. It's awfully hard to run a grocery store if someone is breaking into the back of your grocery store and taking off with $40,000 in supplies. So that's a real example, which a constituent called me about just a couple of days ago. So we need to be a good partner to the people of Portland and the businesses of Portland, helping them keep their doors open, helping them be safe. One of the other things that I think we need to do is just recognize that people are not getting enough value for their tax dollars. So we have to deliver services, but we have to deliver those services effectively and at a good value to the taxpayer.
Definitely, yes. And so that is good. So tell us a little bit about your campaign and how the voters can help you besides money.
Sure. Well, number one, pay attention to this campaign. This is truly one of the things that's happening in City Hall right now is we are changing our form of government. For literally 100 years, Portland has operated under one form of government. When we wake up on January 1st, 2025, we're going to have a very different system. We're going to have a mayor and we're going to have a city administrator. Those are unique positions. It's going to allow us to be much better. The next mayor you pick is going to have a huge impact on which direction we go in, so please pay attention. Although you encouraged me not to talk about money, I will say money's awfully important in this race, so I do hope that you'll donate to every candidate. I'm participating in public financing. I also encourage you to go to my website, mengusmaps.com, sign up for our newsletter so you can keep track of the issues. Also, I encourage you to reach out to me and invite me to your backyard barbecue or to a Zoom meeting. I'd love to talk to you and your neighbors about the issues that you care about, and I also love to share the issues that I'm thinking about too.
And they can contact you on your website?
Yep, mengusmaps.com. Hit the contact button. We'll give you an email, phone addresses, and we'll make sure that we'll get back to you. And we're out there literally on the phones every day, in the community every day. I'll be marching in a parade, I think, tomorrow morning and doing an event in the evening. So we're trying to be everywhere at once.
The 420 parade.
Yeah.
Which parade? Do you know?
I think it's Laotian New Year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it should be really fun.
Perfect for that.
Yeah. I'm going to miss the 421, but I'll be out with my Laotian neighbors and constituents.
Okay. Well, I like to end with a fun question.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite restaurant or park?
Oh gosh, I got two that I want to share. In terms of parks, this is a hidden gem that a lot of Portlanders don't know about. It's one of our newest parks. It's called Gateway Green. It's out in East Portland. It's on a little sliver of land between basically two highways, and it's actually kind of a dirt bike course.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever been out there?
It's like right on the other side of the freeway from Rocky Butte.
Yep.
I've seen that. I've been wanting to take my kid out there with the RC cars.
It is amazing. I tell you, I had the privilege of, back when I was a civilian, to kind of help stand that up a little bit. It's incredibly fun. If you have a dirt bike, go out and check that out. It's also in this really unique space, so you will not see a park like that anywhere else in Portland, and perhaps not even anywhere else in America, just a uniquely Portland thing. And Portland is such a great food town. I'm also kind of an old school guy. I think the restaurant, while it's not the fanciest restaurant in the world or even in town, I'm partial to Clyde's prime rib. I try to get over to Clyde's for brunch probably every other weekend or so. It's been around probably since the 30s or something like that.
Yeah.
But I've been going there since I was a young man. It's like going home. I see my friends and neighbors there. If you go at the same time every week, you're going to know the people serving your food, and you're going to know the people who come in and eat. It's just old school Portland at its best.
Yeah, I grew up right up the hill from there.
Yep.
And really interesting thing was, I didn't go there a lot when I was younger, but when I was in D.C., I actually worked with the Clyde's Group.
Oh, wow.
So, like, the second busiest restaurant in the nation is right across the street from the White House, Old Ebbitt's Grill.
Yeah.
And they're a large DC area restaurant conglomerate. So apparently they sued the Clydes here in Portland. And if you look like near the host stand, you'll see a little placard that's like from the 60s that says like, we are in no way affiliated.
Oh my gosh. Well, I Clyde's is a